Naomi learned the word enough, like the way some people learn a second language, by hearing it used around them, but never spoken over them. She was 6 the first time she remembered feeling it. Her mother was braiding her hair before school, fingers moving quickly, tight like she was in a hurry to finish. Naomi winced in pain when the braid pulled. "Stop squirming," her mother said, irritated. "Why can't you sit still like your sister?" Naomi didn't even know what she had done wrong. She tried to freeze her body, to become a statue. Her mother sighed like Naomi was a chore. Her sister, Ari, walked in a moment later, hair already done, backpack on, smiling like being enough was easy. "See," her mother said, nodding toward Ari. "She's ready. She's always ready." That sentence didn't sting because Ari was ready. It stung because Naomi wasn't. And she decided, quietly, without anyone noticing, that she would spend her life trying to catch up, because at that moment the seed was planted that she would never be enough. In Naomi's home, the words were rarely cruel in the way movies make cruelty obvious. There were no constant screaming fights, no dramatic abandonments. There were just small daily messages that stacked like stones in her chest. When Naomi showed her father a drawing, he glanced at it and said, "That's good, but the lines are messy. You need to focus more." When she brought home an A- home, he said, "Why wasn't it an A?" When she tried out for choir and didn't make it, her brother smirked and said, "Maybe you should stick to being quiet. You're better at that." Her brother, Caleb, was the kind of boy who took up space like it belonged to him. He spoke over people, he laughed loud, he walked through rooms like a winner. Naomi watched him and wondered how he did it, how he wore confidence like a jacket, and she wore doubt like a second skin. Ari was praised for being easy, Caleb was praised for being strong, Naomi was praised for being helpful. That was the kind of compliment you gave someone who was always nearby, always useful, always willing to take less. And Naomi learned to take less so well that even she forgot she was doing it. As she grew older, the message didn't change, it just changed faces. Middle school brought friends who loved her kindness but never chose her first. Teachers said she had potential, a word that sounded like something was not right, like she was lacking something. High school brought boyfriends who liked how she listened, how she didn't ask for too much, how she didn't cause trouble. One boyfriend, Evan, once told her, "You're great because you don't make things hard." He meant it as praise. Naomi smiled and thanked him. When she would look in the mirror, she would stare at her own face and ask herself, "Is that what I'm worth? Being easy?" But the question frightened her, so she swallowed it down. She became an expert at swallowing. By her late 20s, Naomi had built a life that looked stable from the outside. A steady job, a clean apartment, a routine that never surprised her. A small circle of friends who texted occasionally and posted happy photos online. She would smile in those photos. She knew how to smile. Still, there was a hollowness that followed her, like a quiet room inside her that no one ever entered. At night, when she lay in bed, the day's noise would fade. The old voices would rise. Not enough, not doing enough, not pretty enough, not successful enough, not lovable enough. Sometimes it sounded like her mother, sometimes like her father, sometimes like Caleb. Most of the time, it sounded like her own mind. That was the worst part. When the voice came from inside, you couldn't walk away from it. The dream started on a Tuesday. Not the kind of dreams with clear scenes and sharp color. These dreams were soft around the edges, like memory trying to form but not quite landing. In the dream, Naomi sat across from someone. She couldn't see the person's face clearly. Sometimes she thought she could, just barely, like a silhouette of a man, calm and still, hands folded as if he had all the time in the world. But every time she tried to focus, it blurred. What she could feel, though, was undeniable. She was being looked at. It didn't feel like being watched like a stranger watches you, seen like someone who knows you. The person spoke to her in the dream. Naomi knew that because she woke up with the sense of words still hanging in the air. But when she reached for them, when she tried to repeat them, they slipped away. Like she had cupped water in her hands, and it leaked through her fingers. All that remained was the feeling. Warmth, calm, a strange safety she wasn't used to. She sat up in bed, breathing hard, hand pressed to her chest. What was that, she thought? Her phone glowed on the nightstand. 3:17 a.m. She lay back down and tried to sleep again, but the quiet felt different now, like it had been interrupted by something real. The next night, the dream returned. Same presence, same sense of being addressed. Naomi woke again, heart racing, but the word spoken was gone. The third night, the same. By the fourth night, Naomi was frustrated. "You can't keep doing this," she said aloud, alone in her kitchen as she poured coffee. "Either show me what you're trying to say or stop." She didn't even know who she was talking to, but the air felt like it listened. During the day, other strange things started happening. She would be walking down a hallway at work and catch something from the corner of her vision. Movement, like someone stepping beside her. She would turn and nothing would be there. She would be standing at a crosswalk and feel a sudden urgency, a quick push in her spirit like, wait. She would pause, and a car would fly through the intersection as if it didn't see the red light. Her hands would shake afterward, not because she wanted to be dramatic, but because she knew if she hadn't paused, she might have been hit. She told herself it was intuition, common sense, luck. But the pattern was too consistent, too precise, too gentle. Still, Naomi brushed it off. She was good at brushing things off. She had spent her whole life brushing off her own needs, unconsciously reminding herself that she was never enough. A week later, Naomi found herself in a bookstore cafe after work. It wasn't planned. It was one of those decisions you make when you can't stand the idea of going home to silence. The bookstore smelled like paper and cinnamon. Soft music played. People sat with laptops and books, living their small lives. Naomi ordered tea and chose a corner seat near the window. She opened her laptop, intending to do something productive, but instead she stared at the screen without seeing it. Her mind drifted. Her heart felt tired. Not tired like sleep, tired like carrying yourself for too long. That's when the man sat down across from her. Naomi hadn't noticed him approach. One moment the chair was empty, the next there he was, settling in like he belonged there. He looked ordinary, mid-30s, simple clothes, a calm face, eyes that seemed steady. "Do you mind?" he asked politely. Naomi blinked. No, it's a public cafe." He smiled faintly. "True." They sat in silence for a moment. Naomi waited for him to speak again, to reveal why he'd chosen her table out of all the tables. He didn't rush. Naomi noticed that, the way he didn't seem driven by the pressure most people carried. Finally, he said, "You've been carrying a lot." Naomi's stomach tightened. Her defenses rose instantly. "Do I know you?" He didn't answer directly. He just looked at her the way the dream presence had looked, like he could see past her posture, past her smile, past the version of herself she handed to the world. "People get used to carrying things they were never meant to hold," he said gently. Naomi let out a short laugh, more to protect herself than anything else. "That sounds like something people say to sound wise." "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe it's just true." Naomi studied him. He didn't look threatening. He didn't look like he was flirting. He didn't look like he wanted something. That made her more uneasy, not less. I'm fine, she said automatically, the way she always did. He tilted his head slightly. That's not what I asked. His words weren't harsh, but they landed like a key turning in a lock. Naomi looked down at her hands. Her fingers were clasped too tightly together. I don't even know what enough feels like, she heard herself say, and it startled her that the truth came out so quickly. Everywhere I go, I feel like I'm missing something, like I'm always behind. The man nodded as if she had finally spoken in a language he understood. Even when I do well, Naomi continued, voice low, I'm waiting for someone to point out what I did wrong. Who taught you that? He asked. Naomi swallowed. She tried to make a joke, but her throat tightened and no humor came. My family, she said quietly. Relationships. Everyone. It's the only thing I know. The man's eyes softened. That voice you listen to, he said. Does it sound like love? Naomi's chest ached. No. Then why do you trust it? She didn't have an answer, because she had never been asked that question before. Naomi stared at the surface of her tea. The reflection looked warped. I don't know how to stop, she whispered. He leaned forward slightly, as if he didn't want to startle her. You were never meant to earn your worth, he said. You already have it. Naomi felt tears sting her eyes immediately, anger and relief mixing together. To her, those words didn't feel meant for her. That sounds nice, she said, voice cracking. But it doesn't feel true. That's because you've been listening to the wrong voice, he replied. Naomi frowned, wiping her eyes quickly as if embarrassed by her own emotion. And who should I be listening to? He smiled, not smug, not dramatic, just gentle. The one who made you, he said. The words warmed the air around her. Naomi's heart began to race again, but not with panic. Nervous and with recognition. The same recognition she'd felt in the dreams. Have we, she started, then stopped, unsure how to say it without sounding crazy. Have we talked before? His eyes held hers. You remember pieces, he said. That's enough for now. Naomi's breath caught. She stared at him, searching his face for something she could explain. Who are you? She asked, barely audible. The man looked at her for a long moment, and Naomi felt something inside her soften, the way hardened soil softens when water finally reaches it. Then he said quietly, You have been called names that God doesn't agree with. Naomi's throat tightened, tears threatening to break free from her eyes. He continued, You have been measured by people who are measuring their own wounds, their own fear, their own lack. Her hands trembled. How do you know that? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, Tell me the thing that you're most afraid of that you think is true. Naomi's voice came out small, like the child she had once been. That I'm not enough, she whispered. That no matter what I do, it won't matter. The man's expression didn't change, but Naomi felt the room shift, as if the air itself leaned closer. You are enough because God says you are, he said simply. Not because you perform, not because you please people, not because you stay small. Naomi shook her head, tears falling now without permission. But I don't feel... I know, he said gently. You've been trained to feel the opposite. Naomi swallowed hard. Then what does God see when he looks at me? The man's gaze softened even more. He sees a daughter, he said. Not a burden, not a disappointment. A daughter. Naomi's body went still. A daughter. No one had ever spoken that to her like she mattered. The man continued. He sees resilience you didn't even know you had. He sees the way you kept showing up, even when you were convinced you didn't belong. He sees the way you've carried shame that was never yours. Naomi's tears dropped into her tea. And he sees you, the man said, without comparing you to anyone. Naomi's breath hitched. Her mind flashed to childhood, her mother's comparisons, her father's corrections, her brother's mockery. Then she flashed to the dreams, someone speaking to her without condemnation. Naomi whispered, "Why now?" The man smiled. "Because you're finally tired enough to stop pretending and to finally listen," he said. Naomi laughed once, broken. "That's true." They sat in silence, and Naomi felt something she had never felt before in a conversation about her pain. No pressure to rush, no pressure to be okay, no pressure to prove she deserved comfort. Just acceptance. Finally, Naomi whispered, "I think I've been hearing you at night." His eyes flickered with something like tenderness. "You've been hearing what you needed to hear," he said. Naomi stared at him. "Are you?" She didn't finish the question, because the truth frightened her, and yet it felt right. The man stood slowly. Naomi blinked, confused. "Wait." He looked down at her with the calm of someone who wasn't going anywhere, even if he walked away. "Start here," he said. "When the old voice speaks, ask yourself, does this sound like love? If it doesn't, don't crown it as truth." Naomi swallowed. "And if I can't?" "You can," he said softly. "Not alone, but you can." He turned to leave. Naomi stood too quickly, chair scraping the floor. "I didn't even get your name." He paused and looked back. For a moment, his expression was unreadable, like a sunrise behind clouds. Then he said, "You already know what heaven calls you." Naomi blinked, and then she was alone. Not in the dramatic way, not with a flash of light or a gasp from the room. Just alone. The chair across from her was empty. No one in the cafe looked around. No one seemed to have noticed anyone leaving. Naomi stared at the empty chair, frozen. Her tea was still warm. The air still felt soft. Her heart pounded. A thought rose, quiet but clear. That wasn't just a stranger. That night, Naomi dreamed again. This time, the dream held. She sat in the same unseen space, and though she still couldn't see the face clearly, the voice was unmistakable now. Not because it was loud, but because it was steady. "You are not an accident." Naomi's breath caught in her sleep. "You are not overlooked." She felt warmth spread through her chest. "You are not lacking." Naomi whispered in the dream, "Then what am I?" And the answer came like a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Beloved." Naomi woke up crying, not from sadness, from relief, from the kind of relief that comes when a lie finally loses its grip. The days that followed weren't magically perfect. The old voice still visited. When her mother criticized something small, her clothes, her life, her choices, Naomi still felt the sting. But the sting didn't sink as deep. When Caleb made a comment about her being too soft, Naomi noticed something new. His words were less about her and more about him. When an old relationship memory surfaced, the way Evan had praised her for being easy, Naomi didn't smile with pride anymore. She felt grief for the woman she had been, for the girl who thought love was earned by shrinking. One evening, Naomi stood in her bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. Not at her hair, not at her flaws, at her eyes. She whispered something she had never dared to say before. I matter. Her voice shook. The old voice tried to laugh. Naomi pressed her hand to her chest and whispered again, louder. I matter. And the room felt warm, like someone approved. A week later, Naomi returned to the same bookstore cafe. She didn't know why. She didn't expect the man to be there. She just needed to sit where the conversation had changed her life. She ordered tea again. She sat at the same table. This time, no one joined her. But Naomi didn't feel disappointed. She felt accompanied. So she did something she hadn't done in a long time. She prayed. Not a perfect prayer, not a church-sounding prayer, an honest one. God, she whispered, if you see me the way he said you do, teach me how to see myself that way too. She expected silence. Instead, she felt peace. Not the kind of peace that erases pain, the kind that sits beside it, the kind that says, you're safe now, you can heal. Naomi exhaled, shoulders dropping like she had been holding them up for years. She didn't know what tomorrow would look like. She didn't know how long healing would take. But for the first time, she knew this. Her worth was not up for debate, not with her family, not with her past, not with her own mind, because God had already spoken, and heaven had stayed close enough for her to finally hear it. And as Naomi began to understand her worth, the truth echoed what God has always said. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. Psalm 139:14. A reminder that worth is not given by people, not taken by criticism, and not earned through perfection, but spoken by God himself. If this story encouraged your heart or gave you a moment of peace, please take a moment to like this video and share it so more people can hear something hopeful today. And if you'd like to continue listening to stories that strengthen faith, bring comfort, and remind us that God is near, please subscribe to this channel. Your support helps these stories reach others who may need encouragement. Thank you for listening. May peace stay with you until we meet again.